So, guys, I want to talk about my feelings about the Continental Classic this year. And I definitely just feel like, they did a very poor job with it. And I also want to mention, too, that, pardon me, like the people are doing leaf blowing outside, giggity giggity. And I want to just talk about why I'm not happy with it. And first of all, for people who don't know, that the Continental Classic is a tournament that they have around Thanksgiving time all the way to the end of the year for AEW. And what happens is that there's two blocks of wrestlers, six wrestlers in each block. Every wrestler in the blue block has matches with each other. Every wrestler in the yellow block have matches with each other. And the two people with the most points in the blue block, the person with the most point in the block, and the person with the most points in the yellow block, they both have a match with each other for the Continental Classic Championship. And, a little bit about the match is that, it goes like 20 minutes and DQ, pinfall, draw, you get certain amount of points for all of those. And I believe also too, if you lose some points. But it's inspired by a lot of, I think like in New Japan they have the G1 and they do something like this, and then also in soccer tournaments they do something where you have to face different teams. Like I don't follow soccer, but I heard that was inspired by soccer as well. So I want to talk about the participant. I want to talk a little bit about why I'm happy with a few reasons why I'm unhappy with it. And the first thing I want to say um, is that I do not like the Continental Classic Championship because it's really really stupid to have a title for a tournament. Like you look at Mercedes Moné, and she's walking around with the Owen Hart tournament belt like it's a championship, and that makes no sense. But the other issue that I will say is that this is very similar to the Crown Jewel Championship. This will be very similar to having an Elimination Chamber Championship, a Royal Rumble Championship, or a Money in the Bank Championship, or you face the Undertaker at WrestleMania type of championship. Like like for our annual honor for an annual event, really, that makes no sense. Or even like with Slammiversary in TNA Wrestling, there's no King of the Mountain Championship, where it's only defended in the King of Mountain tournament or something like that. Really, like there was a championship. I believe they had it. I believe they had a championship called King of the Mountain, but it wasn't because you had to participate in this tournament. But having tournament championships is really really stupid because how are you going to defend this title really? The other issue that I don't like about this is that there is a better thing. Like the better thing they should have is if you win this match, you should be facing the champion either at a future pay-per-view. You can do one of two things. You can do the Australia pay-per-view in February, or you can say at Revolution this is going to happen really, but it should be at the next pay-per-view you face the champion. We're going to start a new year with a new champion. We're going to start a new year with a up-and-comer really. And I also think too that when you have people in the Continental Classic, you need to have wrestlers that have been very underlooked, and you also need to have wrestlers that are new stars, really, because the thing about it is that if you have people like, Ace Austin, Kyle O'Reilly, Bandito, Anthony Bowens, Josh Alexander, you have some wrestlers that have not featured that well in that wit list. You have people who are new to the company like Ace Austin, and those are better people than the people that they have in the tournament. And the other part of it is that, you need to treat it like the Royal Rumble or Money in the Bank or Elimination Chamber, where you may have some people who they might not fit in this tournament, but they're going to be bigger stars in the upcoming year, and that's what WWE does. And that's also good for AEW because that becomes the F word, foreshadowing. So there are some things, so that's kind of like what it should be, really, but it's not like that. So I want to talk about the Blue League and everybody who's in it. So Orange Cassidy, I'm not for him. He has great matches, but his gimmick is somebody who doesn't really care. Claudio Castagnoli, he should be in the tournament because, he's an international wrestler. He speaks multiple languages. The Death Riders want to get some titles. That makes sense. But the other problem is that Moxley's in the tournament as well, really. So the problem is that Moxley and Claudio should be talking to each other about why are they in the tournament where they can be facing each other. I actually think it would make more sense for Claudio and Moxley to be in two separate brackets. Like Claudio's in the blue bracket, Moxley's in the yellow bracket. that kind of makes the most sense, really. But why do you have like two people that are in the same bracket? And if you even want to say something, in the Don Callis family, Okada and Takeshita are not in the same bracket. So this doesn't really make sense. You've not really established why these two people are facing. And this is also another issue that Tony Khan announced this last night on Twitter, I believe, or online instead of the real show. So they could have said, hey, he's going to pick people at random. Now, how are these people going to react about it on television? That would kind of make a lot more sense than just rushing this out. The next person is you have Mascara Dorada. He's one of my favorite wrestlers. He's a bad motherfucker. He has really great matches. But the problem is he's not really going to win, and I don't want to see him become a jobber. And with Mascara Dorada, I do want to say with him that, he's probably going to lose and go back to CMLL. So it's definitely just really unfortunate that with Mascara Dorada, that he's probably going to be like the like the commander in all this. He's probably going to have the really great matches, but he's not going to really go far, really. And then he's going to go back to CMLL, really. And then also, do you think he's actually going to be a person that they're going to push well? Like, I think Bandito would be a better fit for that. And then also, if you had Bandito, you would have some matches on Ring of Honor, Death Before Dishonor, really. I've talked about Jon Moxley, that the problem is, why is he going after a midweight title when he goes after the heavyweight title? He and Claudio are in the same bracket. He's also been losing a lot. Why would you have a loser in the Continental Classic? Roderick Strong. He loses a lot. There's really nothing special to him. I don't see him becoming a future star. He's probably just there to be a jobber, really. So I really just think that you could have had somebody else. Like, I think maybe you could have even like Anthony Bowens and a Max Caster in this, because they're not together. I think that would make a lot more sense. And then Konosuke Takeshita. It's good that he's in this, but it's kind of predictable. It's going to be Takeshita versus Okada, and we'll take it from there. Then in the yellow bracket, you have Okada. And with Okada, one of the big problems is that, I don't want to see him win another year, because one big problem with tournaments is that if you do something like have the same winner for multiple years, it's going to be like, oh, well, we did all this, we had all this exciting television, and we got back to the same place, really. It's kind of like with The Simpsons. I remember watching this episode where Homer and Marge have a divorce, and then what happens with them is that Homer and Marge have a divorce, and then what happens when they got a divorce is that you realize it was a dream of Homer. Instead of going in a new direction, they just repeated the same direction, and that's kind of what happens. So you can run into a situation where you're just repeating the same direction. You have Darby Allin, and it's kind of almost like, why the hell are you doing this with Darby Allin? Because isn't he like a hardcore wrestler? Isn't he feuding with the Death Riders? Isn't he trying to go after the World Heavyweight Championship? So why is he doing this? You have Speedball Mike Bailey and Kyle Fletcher. You have Speedball Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight. So you kind of have to ask yourself, why are these two people in the tournament? Why are these two people in the tournament? Because aren't they a tag team? And do that allow tag teams and trios where they try to go after a bunch of singles titles? And I also will say that the next part of it was also Kyle Fletcher. So he's pissed off with Takeshita and Okada, really. So why is he in a tournament when he should be part of Don Callis' family going after the heavyweight title? Why should he go? Why should he be facing people that he's rivaling? And the next person is Pac, and Pac makes a lot of sense, really, because he has great matches. He wants to win a title, really, and he could be the new leader of the Death Riders. So with the Continental Classic, I feel like that there's a lot of wrestlers who could be, in the tournament. Like, I know Kyle O'Reilly's not in the tournament because storyline-wise, Jon Moxley gave him an injury. There's also Josh Alexander, who has been the former TNA champion, and he could have really great matches. You can say, hey, you know what? He's another member of the Don Callis family that should be winning, that should be going somewhere, should have a lot more intensity. And then you have Ace Austin as well, like somebody who came from TNA Wrestling. Don't you want to show that, hey, you know what, if you're in TNA Wrestling, you become a star. When we sign to our company, we get you right, really. There's also Bandito, who lost his title, really. So wouldn't it make sense for Bandito to actually be in the, to be in the tournament? You can have some matches on Ring of Honor. I would also say Anthony Bowens should have been somebody in this, because with Anthony Bowens, he and Max Caster are not together, really. So it would make sense for him to be like, you know what, I tried this out at the Prudential Center. It didn't work out. Max, you don't take it seriously. So they both go into the tournament. And then you can do something like you have Max Caster as well, really. So there's a better story. And then I think the last person is like Brody King, because he and Bandito could be in separate tournament blocks, and they could actually eventually face each other or something like that, really. So, there's definitely a lot of holes in who they could have had. And then I asked myself that a lot of it is lacking stories. It's just a random throw together. And there's some simple stories. They really have to be like, okay, on Wednesday, how do all these wrestlers feel about who they're facing and being in the tournament? And also, the other issue is that there's no Ops members. Isn't like Samoa Joe and the Ops the biggest faction in the company now? Isn't he somebody who wants to gain all the titles? Isn't he somebody who expects a lot from his group? Isn't he somebody that's like, you know what, this group is like a hardcore dojo. We need to kind of make it nothing but badasses. So, there's no Hook, there's no Shibata, there's no Powerhouse Hobbs or whatever, really. So it's almost like, why don't you have that person? And then the other issue is you have Ring of Honor Final Battle next week. And they're probably going to do that same pattern of, oh, well, we're going to throw together matches on Ring of Honor, but there are many people who should be on the, you can have some matches on Ring of Honor Final Battle, really. Like, you can do Mascara Dorada versus Roderick Strong, or Takeshita, because they were both on Ring of Honor for a while. You can do, like, Kyle Fletcher versus, I don't know, like, maybe Kyle Fletcher versus, like, maybe, like, Pac or somebody like that. Like, you can kind of, like, have like maybe one Ring of Honor wrestler or somebody who was in Ring of Honor in the far past, or even like a throwaway match. So I kind of worry about that as well, really. But there's definitely like a lot that they can kind of do to make this better than last year. But I really think that the big things are that they really have to get rid of the Continental Championship and say, if you win, you're going to gain the title. But then again, that's going to be the last time. But then that's the last time we're going to do that. You're going to gain the title. It's going to be retired, and then you face the champion at the next big pay-per-view. End of story, really. Or get somebody win the championship, and then you announce the World's End. It doesn't make sense to have a title for a tournament, so we're going to give you something better. That's going to be the championship, and you're going to like also get another you're also going to get another prize, which is you're going to face the champion at Revolution or the next big pay-per-view, which is in Australia. So, and then you're off to the races with that, really, because I think that that's way better. And it's like what I said before, that a lot of these wrestlers got to be like, hey, why am I in the tournament? What does that mean to me? What does winning this title mean to me? What do these wins mean to me? What does it mean to have people who have their eyes on me? Because I'm going to have like 5 matches. And if I win this tournament, I'm going to actually have, I'm actually going to have like 6 matches as well, really. I'm going to have 6 matches. It puts a lot of shine on me. It shows that I can have really great matches and I can be a winner of a tournament. So, this has to really mean a lot to the wrestlers, and this has to be like, okay, this is another way for them to kind of stand out and become bigger deals and bigger stars, really. Because like I said, with Eddie Kingston, the first year, you didn't really do anything with him. I know he got injured. The second year, Okada, and then the year after that, you had Okada twice, really. So it's almost like, I think he did it for 2 years. Like, Okada eventually gained the title, then he won the tournament last year. So it's almost like he didn't really do anything with Okada. He's never had a World Heavyweight Championship match. He's never really been elevated. He's just been a title holder. So what are you going to do with the winner this year? And a lot of people are going to say Takeshita. And then my other concern is that they may say, no, we're going to swerve you, and it's going to be somebody else on the list. Like, maybe it could be Moxley, maybe it could be Claudio, maybe it could be Kyle Fletcher or Darby Allin, and then Or he may say something like, we'll be all repeat wrestling, and we're going to put it back on Okada for another year. Bitch. And then a lot of people are going to be mad because, like I said, all that work and investment just to be back to square one, really. It's just repeat, So I do kind of wonder. And then I also will mention that last year, one of the reasons why I had a streak to professional wrestling to AEW pay-per-views, like I went from All Out 2023 all the way to World's End 2024. One of the reasons why I broke that streak was because I was mad with Okada winning the Continental Classic, because it said, hey, we can't make new stars, we got to repeat shit. Also, the Fatal 4-Way was a bomb, really. So I really just think that hopefully this year they learn that they got to just change some things up with the Continental Classic. So that's all my thoughts about it. I'm sorry for the fucking leaf blower people. And then also, I want to mention, too, that I'm a very busy man. So, you know what? My brother's going to be home in a few minutes. He's going to be loud and cooking. I got to go to work for 14 hours. And then tomorrow I got to get some rest, but my brother might be home for 3 or 4 days, really. So this is like the only time I can kind of make my video. So it is what it is, really. So that's what I got to say.